So this is a video about these bed lights on the Uforce 600. I'm going to show you how I wired it up and what the switches look like. But before I do that, just to make everything make sense, I'm going to show you under the hood the fuse block that I've got wired up, and we'll go from there. All right, I got a fuse panel with keyed power and all the time power right here. So essentially what I did is I ran a dedicated hot wire from the battery underneath the front seat, and the ground wire comes in back there, and the key power is fed by the winch solenoid, which goes to a relay, which comes over to this breaker, 100 amp breaker, which goes into the key power fuse box. Now this relay is turned on when the key turns on by the accessory switch on this CFMoto bus bar. Now, if you don't have a bus bar, that's fine. You can actually do a fuse tap on the ignition fuse right here, which will turn the the relay on. And of course, the relay just makes everything safe. It turns on power when the key's on, and for any of these, it's a 120 amp relay, so it can handle a lot more than what I'll ever put on this fuse block right here. But it's nice having non-keyed power for bed lights, or anything that you want to run without having the key on. So I got my bed lights on there, I've got my dome light, and I've got the interior lights down by my feet. So that's pretty much the best way I found to wire it. And then I just mounted it to the frame rail with a piece of aluminum with some U-bolts. So until I find a better place, that's where it's going to stay. Now I'm going to go under the driver's side seat, show you the battery, how I wired it, coming to the front, and where the best place is to run the wires. So this is the battery. Obviously, I've got just a trolling motor breaker there, 60 amp. So I got my hot wire coming out, and I got my negative wire going to the battery. That's running up to the all the time power in the fuse box on the right side. And the best place I've found to run these wires is actually just coming in right here where the drive shaft is on the other side. You can remove this center panel here. It comes out with 4 bolts. And you have access all the way up underneath through the firewall and then up to the fuse box. And then what you'll do is you'll run your fuse wires through the firewall. There's a couple places that are easy access. There's actually a grommet there. But then those power wires will go to your power. So right now I've got my interior lights, which are nice. If you drop something or whatever, I got one under there. It lights up green, it lights up the whole floorboard. And then I've got the front, cube lights, rear backup lights. And that's it for now until I figure out something else I want to wire up. Okay, another thing I did I thought would be nice is I don't want to have to worry about going into the cab and turning on these bed lights. So if I've got a bunch of gear, I'm hunting, whatever, and I'm coming back up to the side-by-side in the dark, all I can do is just drop the tailgate and the lights come on. And all that's done by just a pressure switch. It's actually made for a GM truck or whatever. So that turns on and off like that. I also thought about, what if I'm running a sprayer or something that needs to have the bed tailgate down? Well, I don't want those lights coming on, so I just put a simple marine on-off switch right there, so they turn off. All right, for the bed lights, what you wanted to hear about. So each one of these is a rock light that came from O'Reilly Auto. They come in a pack of 4. They look like they're made for this thing, but I think all 4 are like $45 or $49. But what I did, each one of these has one gray wire. So I just drilled a hole ran the gray wire down. This is actually hollow, so you can just drop a wire down. So on all four corners, I dropped the wire, mounted the rock lights, and then starting on that far side over there, I connected to a regular 12-volt wire, a red wire, and then I tied it into that one. And then I ran a wire, tied it into this corner, ran a wire, and tied it into that corner. So it's just one wire all the way around, and it comes to a point right here, well, all four wires, I just tied all four into one positive wire that runs up underneath the cab, right here through this panel, and the positive goes up through the firewall. Positive connects to the fuse right here. Now you don't have to run a ground wire because the whole circuit is going to be grounded through the switch on the inside. So I got the red wire here coming in, and then that goes to the switch right here for the bed lights, right? Which is grounded, so that grounds the whole thing. I hope that makes sense. So like I said, you got four wires. I dropped the wire, tied it into a regular, I think it's a 12 gauge wire, ran it to that corner, tied into that wire, dropping down from the rock light, continued the wire over here, tied it into that corner, continued up here, tied it into that corner, and then I just pulled that wire back down, ran it all the way through up to the fuse box, and then ran that wire to the switch. So as far as the pressure switch, that's easy. So there's a couple different types of pressure switches. This is one right here that you can find, but this is a grounded pressure switch. So it's actually made to connect the ground, right? So when it's pushed in, the light's off because the ground is broken. And when it releases, the ground is connected. That's no good in this situation because we want it powered. So this switch right here, well, I'm not gonna open it up, but this switch right here, that's pressure switch, it's actually made for power. So you're just gonna run, what I did is I just used a tap, and I tapped in to my power. So that's going up to the switch, and then it comes back down right there. So when that pressure switch is pushed in, it's breaking that connection. When it releases, it actually connects to power. And your power source, I don't want to have to go back up to the fuse panel. So I just ran that wire over here, and I connected to this hot source here. And of course it's fused, right? And then this goes over to my switch. So I got two wires. So two wires come out of here. Actually, one comes from here, from the power, and the other one comes back around and goes to that wire tap.